even though you're regarded as a bit quaint and a bit oddball and a little bit OTT in training sometimes, maybe like if a couple of people had been straightened out, you know, they'd have been left alone and everything, it would have been more harmonious. When I look at Gillingham, there's a common thread that starts to develop. The best manager I ever played under, who treated me the most fairly and allowed me to be the most expressive and allowed me to be myself and was the most generous in terms of what he wanted to offer me as a contract, was George Petchey. By far and away, easily the best manager and the nicest man and the best football man I've ever played under, because I never got a chance to play for Eddie McCready, right? But then the common thread when I start to go to places like Gillingham is, you know, pseudo intellectuals like Keith Peacock, who did what players liked. He did what players liked.
What, like a small-sided game?
All the time. All the time. Yeah, it was great. Keep balls, small-sided games over the complex. Gillingham owned the freehold to their own ground. They're one of the few clubs at the time who did. Yeah. So they had over the back, they had a complex. So there was like a tarmac five-a-side area and a little gym, multi-gym, fitness centre. And he said, right, we're going over the. Yeah, that's what he used to call it. We're going to the complex. Let's go over there. Little warm-up. And then all the stuff that, when I was at Chelsea as a kid, we did with a theme, small-sided games with a theme. You know, what he did, Keith, is he subscribed to like he signed a lot of ex-Charlton boys, Dick Tideman, Richie Bowman, who went there via Reading, but he was ex-Charlton as well. Colin Powell used to travel in the car with, Peter Shaw. So, you know, he obviously, they had that flavour from the Charlton days, small-sided games and all the sort of sessions that players like. If I'm honest about it, very few drills, very few stuff like patterns of play, definitely no drilling of defence or defensive strategy. That was all done off the cuff, and you had to survive or whatever through your own football intelligence or your own, what I call football IQ. What a lot of people call football IQ. So, to the extent where Paul Taylor would go, his assistant, you do the thing. I think he was trying to copy Bob Paisley. You do the thing, you know, the doings at the near post, and do because you've got the good spring from a standing jump. You do that. You know what I mean? No specifics. So you had to work it out for yourself, which wasn't a problem. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that you go there, it's very sedate, like I say, great set of lads, and really and truly that's what swayed it for me. I worded it in my first book is something along the lines of, have you ever turned up or had a late invite to a drink or to a dinner party or to a barbecue or to a night out and it turns out to be one of the best nights out you've ever had? That would explain the first 2 years at Gillingham. And then I say, have you ever had a pre-planned party or dinner party or booked a show or a restaurant and it turned out to be one of the most disappointing nights of your life? That would explain the second 2 years at Gillingham.
Interesting.
And I've been nothing short of magnificent for Peacock, wherever he put me, to the extent where when Dean White got ironed out by Wimbledon and someone else got suspended and Richie Bowman had to end his career through a ruptured cruciate ligament, he again, you come away, it's not until you think about it and work it out afterwards. Colin Powell's driving and he said to me, "Sits." I went, "What? What's that, Paddy?" He said, "Do you think you could do a job for Keefy in midfield?" So I said, "Well, you've seen me in five-a-sides." I said, "I can control and pass the ball with either foot, any surface. When I'm allowed to express myself," I said, "I can pick passes all over the gaff. I can put a foot in. I'm not going to get beat in the air." So I said, and I'm going box to box. I said, because now I'm not staying behind for a social. I'm not trying to be one of the chaps. I'm a married man, or I was coming up to being a married man. So I said, so the box to box stuff, that ain't going to be a problem. Next thing you know it, Peacock says, "Right, this is the side for today." He says, "Sits, I want you to do a job for me in midfield." So Paddy's obviously confirmed the fact that, yeah, he's confident enough to do a job for you. And he's told Keith, who's asked him to question me. And then I'll go back and he's, next thing you know, I'm named a run of games in midfield. Do you know what I mean? So I played right back. I played midfield. I played centre-back alongside Steve Bruce, who I was quicker than him. I was a better athlete than him. I had better spring from a standing jump than him. I could control and pass the ball with both feet. I could be, actually I was a bit more spiteful than him if it come to putting tackles in. And yet someone had belief in him, and he's like, you know, he's worth a Euro lottery win now, and I'm driving a cab. It's opinions, it's fate, it's whether someone's got belief in you. They was always pushing him and promoting him. Bill Collins, who's like been there since the end of the First World War, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? The chairman, Bill Collins' brother-in-law, he's pushing him. Peacock comes there from Florida somewhere, he's pushing him. Taylor's pushing him. Every time they played someone, like when we played Leyton Orient, I asked Frank Clarke, what do you think of Steve Bruce? Well, he's a fellow Geordie. What's he going to say? He's fucking useless. He said he carried him on his shoulders. Well, he fucking never, because we all had a good game. None more so than me.
What was Steve Bruce like to be around? What does he like as a teammate?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Don't matter about... Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it is fate. Me coming out... I'll be honest with you. I'll say quite... Let's say halfway through the interview, 3/4 of the way through the interview. Me coming out of football probably saved my marriage. Do you know what I mean? And maybe in that respect, I was a bit unbalanced. You know, Chris Turner done a fantastic interview the other day for Orient Hour. And it was nice to hear him say it. It still gives me a little bit of a... You know, it's nice to get a little pat on the back. You know, he said, one thing I say to Sitz is he was an excellent coach. An excellent coach. An excellent coach. He said it 3 times. Right? And I thought that was fantastic. Right? But then he added that I was controversial and outspoken. But then what he should have added is the fact that I like to think I've got a bit of charisma, and I've got a bit of attitude, and I've got a bit of confidence, and I'm radical, and I'm imaginative, and I'm innovative. All right? So, yeah, that was nice to hear him say that. You know what I mean? But what's happened is, so the point I'll make is, maybe I weren't always on an even kill. Brucey was always on an even kill. So then what you get is you get that, what I said, that that counterintuitive thing from managers where they go, oh, can I trust him? Well, they've picked you, right? So if they've picked me, like Peacock picked me to do a job at right back, to do a job at centre back, he even took the piss beyond taking the piss once. He played me fucking left back against Southend. It was managed by Bobby Moore, and his number 2 was Malcolm Allison, who was the godfather of coaching in this country and was shit on from a great height by the FA, and then expected to say thanks for the hat, right? And no one looked up to him, no one tapped into him, no one used his experience, no one used his innovation and his deep thought for the game, all of which was done 35 years before Arsene Wenger even thought of it. Arsene Wenger was probably fucking running around his mum and dad's garden in Alsace, right, when Malcolm Allison was coming out with his stuff about stretching programs, diet and nutrition, physiology and anatomy, and the discipline of doing this and the discipline of doing that. You understand? Arsene Wenger arrives. David Dean says he's a class act. Glenn Hoddle endorses him. And all of a sudden he changes people's lives and changes people's careers and adds years onto their career. Malcolm Allison was doing it 35 years ago, but never got the credit for it. You know what I mean? So the point I make, or I think I'm trying to make, is when you look at the package, managers can't have it both ways. I know. I study people. I'm a good reader of body language. I like to think I am. But you can't tell if someone's lied to you or they're lying to you until they've lied to you. You understand? If I know you're a thief and you're coming to my house, I'm going to lock all the cabinets and all the cupboards, aren't I? And hide me wallet because I know you're a thief. You understand what I'm trying to say? The point I'm trying to make. But if you're a liar, if you're a bluffer and a bullshitter, like there's a fucking million of them in football, you don't know until they've lied, or you've come across the lie, or you've been told the lie, or you've been had over. But I promise you, in the end, I will work it out. Right? So what it is, you're perceived as like maybe being a bit, let's say, not quite as level, even though you've got this going for you, that going for the other, and you're better than him at this, and this. Someone shows belief in him. He goes to Norwich for 80 grand, scores the winner in a League Cup semi-final. They win the League Cup final through a mistake. Next thing you know, Man United are buying him for 10 times the amount. And then he goes on to have a magnificent career. But that's not the take. I got on great with him and his wife Jan, me and my missus. And I used to take the mickey out my missus because she's like this. They're talking like, because of the the broad Geordie accent. Brucey went once, you ain't got a clue what we're talking about. No, but he was funny, good company, great trainer, great lad, never fazed by anything. And never, what I will give him is he's always level-headed, very confident, very, very, very confident, but always level-headed, never started ever to believe his own publicity, which is, I think, is a good thing. I think if you summed him up in one word, humble.
Now, you initially joined Leyton Orient as a player. Big deal for yourself, moving back down south as well. I know Gillingham was not too far, but you must have jumped at the chance to get back down to London. Talk to me about your initial move to Leyton Orient.
After 2 years of being fucked about, James, Peacock, right, he goes out. I've been nothing short of magnificent. I've done everything he's asked of me. And some. And all he remembers me for in his autobiography is a fight in training with Kenny Price. And I'd have quitted myself magnificently in every position he put me in. Right? And I'm saying that as an ex-coach and manager, not just a player. If I look back at me as a player, I think, yeah, you know what, I'd have played you as well. I'd have trusted you as well. Then what does he do? He goes out, he buys a centre-half, Keith Oakes, who makes me look like Valerie Boltsoff. And a fullback who was as blind as a bat and was raspberried and had to do work on his quads every day because he had dodgy knees, Joe Innigan. So I'm like, what the fuck's going on there? Then Brentford put an offer in for me. Fred Callaghan and Ronnie Harris, his number 2. Ronnie was his number 2 player coach. He says, go for him. He says he'll do a good job for you. So I'm thinking to myself, that'd be lovely. I can negotiate on top of the fee. I can negotiate a signing on fee and a rise because I'm getting married, or I'm recently married, and I'm living in an house where it's bare plaster, no carpets, no curtains, other than curtains for the bedroom. And the bedroom, obviously, I've got a carpet and I've got me bed, and we had the kitchen and the bathroom, so we had 3 rooms. Right? Keith Peacock turns it down. Well, what's that about? You're now, on top of taking the piss with regards to playing in different positions, even though everyone knows I'm a centre-back, on top of going out and buying players to compete with me or take me place, right, you've now denied me a move to Brentford, which would have meant Gillingham had my services completely free of charge and recouped the transfer fee they gave to Millwall, which was only a drink anyway, right? But that's not the point. They would have got all that money back and they'd have gone, there you go, Sit's on your way, right? And he turns around and he says to the directors, well, we've had Sits for 3 years, but he's cost us nothing and I've got a little profit as well. He ain't even cost us wages or signing on fees or transfer fees. I've got it all back off of Brentford, right? What does he do? He fucks me about by offering me the same money and then arguing with me, right, over a £5 in expenses to get me from Edmonton to Gillingham, going through Stamford Hill, the East End, Blackwall Tunnel, the A102M, and then the A2 down to Gillingham every day, there and back every day. He was giving me 25 quid a week expenses, and he wanted to reduce it to 20 quid. Right, so obviously it's giving me the ump, right? And then in the last year, he didn't even have the courtesy to say to me, I'm going to let you go, or I want to let you go, or I'm thinking of letting you go, or someone's come in for you, because the Brentford deal was dead and buried to the extent where I think Fred and Ronnie Harris had already left the club. And then he says to me, yeah, I want you to be part of the team. We've got this fixture, we've got to fulfil this fixture. He said, but they've got to finish the league. What it was, I think it was the Capital Homes League. Which was the reserve league, and they had a fixture left over against Leyton Orient. So I went there with Ted Buxton, who was in charge of the team, who was he was Keith's chief scout.
We've had the privilege of having Ted Buxton on the channel. Good man, Ted.
Yeah,
very good man.
Yeah, well, Ted's built his way up, and a font of knowledge, and he approached Frank on my behalf, come up and told me. I said, well, I didn't even know I was available. I said, I know Keith ain't offered me a new deal yet. But he said, well, I've told Frank you're available. So then we played this reserve game. I'm surrounded by kids. We beat Orient. He sees me, very vocal, nothing short of magnificent, had like a magnet on my head every time the ball come into the box. Tackles, pass. And he must have thought, well, we can do a bit of this. You know why? Because I didn't realise I was jumping out the fat into the fire. They just had 2 successive relegations. Frank had been part of both of them. So when you're talking about life's lucky boys, Peacock and Clarke, and the reason I've got this vitriol is because I had 8 years on the same money. He said to me, Frank said, well, look, come in and have a chat. I'll forget all the preambles and I won't waste your time with it. But said, well, go and talk to him, he said, because I don't think Keith's going to offer you anything. So I said, all right, but Keith can't pick the phone up and tell me. He can't call me in and talk to me face to face. He's that embarrassed and that ashamed, which he was. It's like the Greeks have got a saying, right? They go like this, androbe, right? It means like, it's got about 4 meanings, but one is like you should be ashamed. You know what I mean? Where do you put your face? You should be embarrassed to put your face out. You understand what I mean? So he won't come. So something I picked up off my missus. I like it when if they talk Greek and they think I just sit there like a glum, and they don't realise I know what they're on about. Anyway, fuck it. It's going off the point, right? The bottom line is, I took Frank's. Maybe that's why he's a European Cup winner. You see him at the front of the queue with Larry Lloyd to pick the cup with John McGovern, as miserable as fuck. A face like a smacked arse. Who would have thought he's just won the European Cup, right? One of life's lucky boys. At best, an average fullback. Yeah, he could run. He could run like he used to run at Leyton Orient around the track on his own. He could probably run all day. But I mean, how hard is that? Get the ball, fucking give it to John Robertson and then just have a breather. Get the ball, give it to John Robertson, have a breather. Get the ball, give it to John Robertson, have a breather. You know what I mean? Anyway, he says to me, he's got this, and this is the point, he must have fucking balls like cantaloupes to say to me, I'll take a punt on you for 200 quid a week. He's going to take a punt on me. And I'm one of the ones that ended up keeping him in a job. So that's how I turned up at Leyton Orient, the summer of '85.
As you mentioned, Leyton Orient had back-to-back relegations.
Yeah.
The team's in a bad place.
Very bad place.
How did you guys then turn it around?
It was in that bad a place, let me tell you. Let me lay the foundations and the footings for you, because I've took stick off of Leyton Orient supporters on social media. Listen, they're not all the same. There's some good ones, but people have done less time than me and had they've had stands and snack bars named after them. You understand? I was there for 10 years. Ability, passion, dedication, professionalism. You know what I mean? Information, and then you treat it with contempt. Well, that hurts. It's like a fucking dagger. You understand what I mean? And my missus said, well, don't respond to it, because you're letting them think, or you're letting them know that it's got to you. It can't get to me. I'm still here. I'm just saying, it's a reckoning. You understand? I'm saying what's what. I'm saying, who the fuck are you to be having a pop at me with sarcasm? Come and pick me up in your cab. I've got a fiver. Or he said, I've got a Jack's. Come and pick me up at an Orient game. Another one says, imagine thinking you're still relevant. All this fucking bollocks, right? And there's people done less than me and they've got snack bars and fucking stands named after them, right? Anyway, I laid a foundation for you. You had the season I arrived, he'd just been relegated as manager, Clarke, on his own. Before that, he was number 2 to Ken Knighton, right? I'm just thinking to myself, what the fuck have I landed in here? You understand? Which I did that a couple of times. When I went to Millwall, it was because of the training ground. And then in brackets S, the grounds, you know what I mean? One day you're on the AstroTurf at Southwark Park, then you're on a dog shit field somewhere in Catford, then you're somewhere else in fucking Lewisham. You're like, oh, I've just bought a new car, I'll give the lads a lift, it's fucking caked in mud. I'm like, oh, where the fuck have I landed here? But to be honest, it was no worse than Chelsea. Mitcham was a fucking shithole, and wooden pavilion, fucking everything diseased. You had to go in this walk through this tray like fucking cattle, right, with this purple spirit thing that Norman Medhurst had laid out to keep germs off your feet, verrucas off your feet and whatever. And then Eddie Mac bought in the flip-flops and the robes with a number on and all that. You know what I mean? See what I mean? Thinking ahead. But so it was no worse than Chelsea. And then we had Molesey, which when it pissed the rain, that was like just playing. It was just like playing on flat mud. And we had East Molesey. What was the other one? The Metropolitan Police, where they used to train the dogs and the horses, and the Metropolitan Police football team played. Imber Court, that was it, Imber Court. That was a magnificent facility, right, to be fair. Well, then in Millwall I said what I said, and then you turn up at Orient, you're thinking, what the fuck have I landed in here? Ive Farm, Lowell Farm, everything was a fucking farm. and it might as well have been a farm when you look at the state of it. Tufts of grass here and there, packed down mud in other areas, people going over there walking their dogs, dog shit everywhere. Then we go to another gaff where he'd done a deal with Alex Welsh, who I got talking to him about coaching. He was a big fan of Bob Wilson and goalkeeping coaching and making it a specialist thing. So I said, it's funny that since my Chelsea days, where seeds are sown, Johan Cruyff says something, seeds are sown, right? Dave Sexton's there, and Eddie Mack with his innovative formation, seeds are sown. Then when they start talking about the Ajax in the early 70s, I think they won 3 consecutive European Cups. Dario Gradi and Dave Sexton start copying their blueprint. And Renus, I think it's Renus Michaels, it can all be traced back to him. Seeds are sown. Do you know what I mean? So you're thinking all these things and you're playing it back. And then I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking to myself, I'll turn up and now I've come to this. I'm training on thing where like people are walking their dogs and no one's even picking up after their dogs. Do you know what I mean? And then when I get doing the thing with Alex Welsh about goalkeeping coaching and specialist qualifications, we end up Douglas Air Sports Centre, where there's an invasion of Canadian geese. Right, so I'm talking every day, like, and you're talking like these Canadian geese doing turds. You put fucking new pier in at Clacton. You know what I mean with it? It's like diabolical, and I mean diabolical. And he's taking a punt on me for 200 quid. On top of which, right, you got people there, and you think to yourself, hold on a minute, how the fuck is this right? You've got people like Barry Silkman and Tommy Cunningham who've been involved in relegations, and you're thinking to yourself, they've actually taken a pay cut, right, because of the financial hardship the club's going through before I got there. And yet one of them's, if not both of them, they're on 3 times more money than I am. Right? But then, just to underpin, underline, underscore the problem, I'm then made captain. Right? So the previous captain, who's on 3 times more money than me, runs a pub in Bethnal Green, drops a barrel on his toe. He can't start the season, although they'd already read the script because Bill Songhurst was his mate. Bill was the physio. He's giving him the down, what we call the down, giving him the eye treatment and the verbal, right? And said, you ain't starting the season. He's starting the season with Sitton and Colin Foster. Right? Not only that, Sitz is the new skipper. So he's taking a punt on me for 200 quid and I'm his fucking captain now. It worked that one out. Do you know what I mean? So you look at all that and you just think to yourself, you're talking culture shock beyond the culture shock, right? But another one, he basically asks, Sitz, you're just like me, he says, Frank. Just like you where? Just like you at Forest, right? Which we all know Cloughy. Everyone knows the stories about Clough behind the scenes in the game, which I won't say on camera. What they see is they only see what they see on telly. They only see what they see with the documentaries. They only see what they see with the European Cup wins. But everyone knows about behind the scenes with Cloughy. But so what? As in, he says you just want to play the game like I did. You just want to train. You just want to play. And I said to him, yeah. I said, but it got to a stage where I think even he was embarrassed. I said to him once, I said, yeah, Frank, but it'd be nice to get paid for it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think like when he was at Forest, he was just like fullback. What you've got to understand is until latter day, where it's become more part of, because let's face it, it's a redundant. It was for many, many decades. When you got people like talking down to me at the FA, like Jimmy Armfield, right? All this fucking bullshit like an iron fist and a velvet glove bollocks, I'm not having it. He had the fucking charisma of a rocking horse. So I had a row with him at Lilleshall about something, and he just put me in my place. He said, just remind me, who are you working for at the moment? So I just said to him, I'm not working at the moment, Jim. I was just sacked by Leyton Orient. But I'd fucking basically slaughtered him on a debate about something. And he's one of them who played football when it was one up from park football at fullback, which was a redundant position and has been for fucking decades. It's a nothing position until you look at the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, right? And before that, my Chelsea days, right? Where they had like overlapping fullbacks from the Ken Shalato, Tommy Docherty days, right? It was a redundant position, right? So I'm looking at things now and I'm thinking to myself, as I'm saying it as a 60-year-old, why did I put up with that? Because he says to me, you're like me, you just want to play the game. You just want to play. You just want to play. As in, I think like what it was a cheap option in a redundant position, and who ended up becoming a European Cup winner. You know what I mean? ultimately it's not fair, because at best he was average. At best.
How long did you play for Leyton Orient before you and Chris Turner got the managerial position, temporarily at first?
I played for 6 seasons, and then I think Clarke had already he was struggling again. Listen, we went up 88, 89. I was captain, but I was captain after fighting my way back from the summer of 88. I broke my arm in Corfu. And I told a lie. I said I slipped down some steps. I said the boys were having I went away with my Sunday side, right? And although it's nowhere near as sinister as what's gone on since, a bit like my volatile tirade in the dressing room. When you look at that and you stack it up against what's gone on in the game, it pales into insignificance. Yeah. But if your face fits, right, and if you call people out, right, and I've got all these ingredients going against me, which I can list for you, I can easily list for you if you ask me, right? And I'm never going to get back in the game, or I was never going to get back in the game, which ultimately was partly a blessing, right? But I digress. When I said to Frank, yeah, the lads had a water fight. I went away on my Sunday side. The lads had a water fight, and I slipped on these marble steps, and broke my arm, right? And I broke it. There's a small bone in the arm called the ulna, ULNA, and it's the small sharp one in your forearm, right? So anyway, I broke. So I come back. I'm in plaster. In the meantime, this cunt, right? I can't forgive him. I can't forgive him. He's gone out and he's bought a geezer who I call Coconut Head, David Corner, who gifted Norwich their League Cup win with a bad back pass. Right, so his answer to me having a fucking magnificent couple of seasons, 3-4 seasons, keeping him in a job when we was going out to warm up. Bear in mind the gates, right? The directors were going around saying no one must know the gate, right? Therefore, or thereby bringing attention to the gate, which was at the time 1600, 1700, 1800. All of whom were singing during the warm-up, say like you went out at 2:15 a warm-up, then you go out again for the kick-in at like just before kick-off at 2 to 3, they were singing Clarke out, Clarke out, Clarke out. Behind the scenes, everyone's trying to stab him in the back. You've got fucking people who ain't being played in the side, stripped to the captaincy, coating him off. And I'm behind the scenes with Bill Songhurst, keeping everything on an even keel, saying, be patient, no, he's all right, he's a good guy to play for. They're saying, what's he like? What's he like to play for? How can it be like this? How comes players are not playing for him? So what I'm thinking he's trusted me, he's made me captain, even though he's kept me poor, I'll stick up for him. Because, I don't know, because I'm a fucking idiot. Call it misguided loyalty, right? But now I can't forgive him, if I'm honest. You look at it, and you're saying, if the truth be told, the year we went up in 88, 89, it was down to the players and Brian Eastick. And if the truth be told again, Brian Eastick had to fight a lot of the players, battle mentally every day to come out and do drills and do organisation, when players like Stevie Baker, who come from Southampton, after 100 odd games for Southampton, who was a magnificent athlete, right? Put a nice shape on the ball into the channel or into the corner. Which was part of the pattern of play to push the opposition back. They were saying, can't we just sit, let's have a word? Can't we just have a fucking 9 aside? Can't we just have an 8 aside? What's this fucking crap? What's this shit? We can't, fucking hell, not again. We're not doing crossing and finishing again. We're not doing patterns of play again. We're not fucking drilling the back four again, surely. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, whoa. Because we're on a run of results. We've got Kevin Campbell from Arsenal. We're on a run of results. He's on loan as a kid. He's fucking scoring for fun. Right, which I said to you, the common denominator through the clubs, Chelsea, right, Gillingham, he got rid of a load of forwards because they couldn't score on the stag night in Bangkok, Peacock. We've got the same problem at Leyton Orient, right? As fantastic a professional, a guy, and a technician he was, Chris Jones wasn't a prolific scorer when I first got there. So he's got the kid from Fisher who went to Gillingham and then came to Leyton Orient, Paul Shinners. Well, what he done, Shinners, he lied about his age. He knocked 3 years off it to get a contract. Really? I never done no background work. He was fucking 31, coming up to 32. He told Clarke that he was 28. Right. Anyway, first season he had a good season. He banged a few goals in. Then he just wants to spend 2 years. And then if they don't listen to you, see what comes next. Anyway, We got up 88, 89 for one reason and one reason only, Brian Eastick, who ironically I was at fucking loggerheads with at Chelsea. But a magnificent coach, right? He's making things. He's making overtures before that, Clough, because he got a player. He'd done Orient, he'd done Clarke, he'd done him up like a kipper. Clarke has done him a favour, old pals act, right? He's let him have Colin Foster, who the world and his wife inquired about him, a 6'4" centre back. And little side story, he goes up there with Frank Clarke to meet Brian Clough, and then he's on a chair on wheels, and he gets hold of Colin Foster's chair and he pulls himself towards Colin, so they're like this. And he said, "Colin, all I want you to do is come and head the ball for us. Now, would you like a drink?" And he's opening a can of lager at 10 o'clock in the morning, offering him a drink. He said, "Sits, he's weird." He said, he's weird. He said, but anyway, so he gets 70. I think he gets 75 grand and Mark Smalley from Nottingham Forest reserves. So I've broke my arm. So they're starting the season with David Corner and Mark Smalley, right? So anyway, I'll come back from my broken arm. They realise what a fucking disaster, right? Clarke realises that he's been tucked up by Dennis Smith. What a fucking disaster David Corner is. And you can't play Keith Day and Mark Smalley together because they're both skinny, they're both light, they're both slight, they're both quick, they're both good on the ball, but they don't boss people. They're not going to win headers. They're not going to fucking get everyone to squeeze up to condense the play like Eastick's taught us. The Arsenal defensive strategy, which was invented by Terry Venables in Barcelona, passed on to George when he was youth coach at QPR. George was youth coach at QPR under Venables. And then George took it away and he used it at Millwall and at Arsenal, right, and perfected it at Arsenal because you've got high football IQ, right? So then I've got an high football IQ under Eastick, and then I'm getting them to do this. So then I'll get the thing from Eastick, right? Translation. So Eastick says to me, he said, "Well, me and Frank agree. You need to do a mini pre-season, get back as quickly as you can, right? Competing for a shirt, right?" Translation. Frank's had a fucking nightmare in the transfer market. What spunks a load of money on David Corner with relocation expenses, signing on fee and wages, and we can't play Smalley and Day together. So you need to get back. Right? So that's what I did. Then we went up, 88, 89. And then Frank, off the back of that, with the support of Brian Clough previously, saying there's only one man who can replace me at Nottingham Forest, that's Frank Clarke. Right? Giving Frank Clarke the support he needed when he was on the verge of yet a third relegation, and 1,800 fans were calling for his head. Right? He's backed him publicly, Cloughie. Fantastic, brilliant. That's how you repay loyalty, Frank. In case you're watching this, that's Keith Peacock. That's how you repay good service and loyalty, by backing someone and supporting them and endorsing them. Right? So he gets that endorsement. Next thing you know, he brings in Peter Eustace. Brian's obviously wants a bit of activity in the transfer market. He wants to make a dent in the division above. He said, how good would it be if we had 2 successive promotions? Anyway, I don't think the club's ambition lived up to Brian Eastick's ambition. So Brian left, and he left for pastures new. And he's had some unbelievable jobs. Newcastle under Bobby Robson, Birmingham, Manchester City, FA, England under whatever. Under 19s, under 23s, whoever the fuck, you know what I mean? He's had an unbelievable career, and rightly so. But he's been a bit of a football gypsy where he's travelled, where he's gone where the ambition and where the contract is. And no way, shape or form did Leyton Orient's ambition matches, so he had it on his toes. So then what Clarke does, he brings in Peter Eustace. And that was the summer I did my full badge. And he says, "Oh, you've done the big one. Well done, son." Da-da-da. And he lies to me again. I get lied to again. You're my Mike Lyons. What's that mean, Peter? He said, "You've got this manliness about you, on and off the football field." He said, "You contribute to team meetings. You're a good organiser." He said, "You contribute towards stuff on the training field. You contribute towards stuff in the dressing room." He said, "I like that." He said, "It was like when Howard, I was his number 2, and we bought Mike Lyons to Sheffield Wednesday from Everton," he said. And he came in, he said, and he basically underpinned everything me and Howard said. And I went, "Okay, thank you for that. That's a nice sentiment." And then within 6 months, because I had the audacity to speak up, I think we lost 7 on the spin. And I said, "Listen, in the grand scheme of things, it's not fucking Graham Souness at Liverpool or Roy Keane at Man United, you know what I mean, saying such stuff. I said, well, there's people wearing the Leyton Orient shirt, they're not fit to wear the shirt. They're letting the supporters down. They're pulling out of tackles, they're pulling out of headers. We're too easily dominated when we go away from home. To coin a phrase from Brian Eastick and quite a few other coaches like John Cartwright, we don't earn the right to play, we get bullied. These are all contributing factors. Well, you've got a mischievous fuckhead called Owen Hand, who was manager of Huddersfield, and they fell for it. Hook, line and sinker, Eustace and Clarke, instead of supporting me and saying, whoa, hold on a minute, he might have a point. I know he's an underling, I know he's only a player, but he might have a point. What they done, they fell hook, line and sinker, and Eustace sent Frank Walk to get the tape of me on club call saying such things and stripped me of the captaincy and said, maybe he thought he was covering me a bit, he said, listen, I think the captain of our side should be our leader, and our leader in the Forest is Stevie Castle. He said something along the lines of the leader of the pack should be the leader of the pack. The leader of the pack in the Forest when we do our 7-mile runs is Stevie Castle, or Stevie Castle. He says, so he should be our leader on the field. So he stripped me of the captaincy, and he gave the captaincy to our best cross-country runner, Stevie Castle. And then I was out on my arse. He made a point of making me available for a free transfer after the transfer deadline in March, as it was then the third week in March the 23rd. Nevertheless, I had a couple of offers, one abroad, two over here, and I couldn't agree with John Steele, who's quite a legendary lower division manager. I couldn't agree with him. He offered me a phenomenal signing on fee, but not a great basic. So I said, well, I said, I've got a young family. I've got two little girls. I've got a third one on the way. I didn't know he was a boy at the time. So I said, so, you know, I'm about to have my third child. I said, can't we take some of the money off of the signing on fee, break it down and put it in my basic? He said, no, I can't do that. And I don't know what the agenda was. Anyway, we couldn't do a deal. Then I got a late shout, which I regret not doing it now, but it's pride. It was pride. It was everything. Ego, pride, whatever. I got a call from Kevin Locke at Southend. And David Webb's the manager, and he says, Sits, he said, Webby's asked me to give you a call. He said, he wants you to come in, do pre-season with us, he said, and see how we go. He said he's looking to sign another centre-back. He said, and he thought it'd be nice if you come in, do pre-season, he said, and see if we can do a deal. Right? So I says to him, Lockie, I don't do auditions. Yeah. I said, I don't do auditions. He went, what? I said, listen, I've been playing against you and Dave Webb for nearly a decade. I was educated and had a run of first team games at the club where David Webb had a career defining moment. Right? So he knows my pedigree. So I said, I do not do auditions. He either wants to sign me or he don't want to sign me. If he wants to sign me, offer me a contract. If the contract's any good, I'll sign the contract and I'll come and start pre-season with you. I said, but I'm not doing auditions. I said, plus I've got to travel all the way from North London to Southend every day. I said, what am I going to... He said, all right, so it's fair enough, I'll tell him. That was it. So that was a big regret, because I could have gone back and I could have bit Orient on the arse, right? And I could have bit Eustace on the arse by playing for one of their main rivals, one of their biggest rivals. What's regarded as a local derby, even though it's like right up the A12. You know what I mean? So that's a bit of a regret. But then within a matter of weeks, he actually, Eustace, to his credit, he gave Bernie Dixon the nod for me to come and start coaching in Leyton Orient Centre of Excellence, which after a couple of weeks I christened the Centre of Mediocrity.
How long would you have spent coaching at the academy at Orient then?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, they're just given a job to Jeff Pike for the year I left, the summer I left. Eustace took us, his first pre-season, he took us to Spain for a few days, and I've never experienced anything like it.
In terms of? It
was like a glorified 1830s. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, by that time I was a bit more experienced. I think I was 30, had a bit more nous, had a bit more contradiction really to some of what I've been saying, but I think a bit more etiquette, a bit more, I don't know, social awareness, if you like. So I was like trying to steer the boys right in terms of do's and don'ts. I remember Eustace throwing a tantrum there because the lads didn't want to go to a bullfight. He said, canvas, the lads. He said, I'd like us to take in a bullfight. He said, see if they'll go. So I said, all right, no problem. He said, you ever been to a bullfight? I said, yeah, I went to a bullfight when I was here with Chelsea. So I said, I think the Spanish call it a form of ballet. So he said, what do you think? So I just said, well, I just think it's basically the ritualistic slaughter of an innocent animal. I said, although I do love a steak.
But you wouldn't want to kill it yourself by hand in a...
No, it was like that, though. It was fucking pseudo hard man. You know what I mean? And, you know, used to talk complete bollocks. In the end, he was a parody, which I became. You know, if the truth be told, I've been the victim of it. But he was like, he started becoming like the PE teacher in Kes. You know what I mean? What's his name? Is it Islop? Brian Islop or fucking Brian Glover? I'll be Bobby Charlton. You know what I mean? He used to do bizarre things like get everybody out of bed, get on the coach. We were playing, I think, Huddersfield away. Gets the coach driver to go on a fucking trip. I think, well, we're going for a loosener like we used to with Brian Eastick. We used to have a loosener. You used to get up in the morning. If you wanted breakfast, have breakfast, but then meet at such and such a time. I don't know, 9:30, whatever, 10 o'clock. We're going to go for a loosener, then we're going to come back for our pre-match meal at 11 or 11:30. Then we're going to pack our gear, leave your rooms and go to the ground. And what Brian used to do, you know, we'd have a little shakeout, you know what I mean? Just a little walk, few stretches, then a jog, few stretches, few little exercises, little sides to sides, you know, maybe have a little keep more in a circle, maybe not. He takes us on a coach drive, Eustace, to this thing, and there's this like, I remember it was like an upside down hill, like a council estate, so across and a return towards you, there was a football pitch. I thought, oh, we're going to go on the football pitch and have a little loosener. Metal goalposts, no nets. The thing was like about 30 to 45 degrees, like that, the goalpost where they weren't put in the ground properly. Then you look up and you literally saw a mountain. It reminded me of the thing, fucking, is it Aberfan? It was just like a massive slag heap. When you see that, I was a kid and then I watched the documentaries on him. You see the massive slag heap from the mines. Or from the waste, and it was all like this coal and dust and mud and thing, and he kept going on about southerners and you've got a soft underbelly and you don't know what an hard day's work is, and up here we do all the hard work and down there you spend all the money and all sorts of bollocks. I fucking being an idiot, I piped up again, didn't I? So I said, so what's your point? He said, then Castle, who's started brown nosing him. Posh word is being a sycophant. Yeah, he jumps on the bandwagon about Thatcher. So I said, you're obviously very politically aware, both of you. I said, did you know they're cunting her off about closing all the mines? So I said, more mines were closed under Labour than Margaret Thatcher. Anyway, he fucking went red and shut up. And that was it. But he had me back. And when we was actually on the Spanish trip, he was golfing. So Castle played golf, and Jeff Pike played golf. So that's obviously where he'd made inroads. Because when we at the end of that season, Pike was appointed youth coach. I was at the academy, but then stories started to filter through that. It's ironic, really, because I've heard he's done a bit of work. He must have improved. He must have improved. He's been doing a bit of work for the FA for quite a while now. Apparently he couldn't handle the sessions, he couldn't handle the discipline, he couldn't handle the boys. And there was a couple of wayward youths, and there was a bit of dust up and whatever. And then after 2 years, the job became available. I think when he found out I got it, he rang me up, Jeff, and he said, good luck. He said, you're going to need it. He said because he's a fucking horrible human being to work for. And I said, well, no different than when we was players then. I said, I'm just going to do my own thing. I said, it's about giving the players an education. It's about giving them an education. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be found wanting in that department. I said, and then, you know, me being me, I'll probably try and keep me contact to a minimum. But then, so I got the youth team job and I had about 10 months in it.
You enjoyed that?
Then I got the call. I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. I loved the kids. I loved the kids. I treated them a bit like my own sons, as in, you know, I'd have a laugh and a joke and a bit of banter, and I'd fucking coat them off when they needed it.
Discipline them where it needed to be
Well,
done.
yeah, but in a sort of like a big brother, or a big brotherly, or
Like a football mentor.
a roguish uncle type of way, or or even a dad type of way. You know what I mean? Like my boy now, he's nearly 30. You know what I mean? He's a grown man, and we get on well and all that. But he keeps a respectful distance. Well, that comes from when he was little. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's a good thing. But neither of us are ashamed to. We kiss and cuddle each other in public. Me and my son. You know what I mean? Well, that's how I felt about my youth team players. And they're the perfect canvas. I mean, I'd had some of them from the age of 13, 14, like Darren Person, who went on to have a good career, and people like Jody Looms and all that, Tony Court, the two goalkeepers, Chrissy Perifamu, and I'd had them since they were kids. So they knew all about me from the centre of excellence, and then they knew when it was time to work. And when it was time to be a bit more relaxed and be a bit more light-hearted, but when it was time to work, they worked, and they were just fantastic. What I mean by a blank canvas is, and someone said to me, it's the best job in football, and I said, well, how comes it's not the best paid, right? And this is one of those contradictions, right? And I'll go on record. All crocodile tears cried when an ex-England international, who was a magnificent footballer, magnificent centre-back, died on the training field. But he was an Acne boy, right, like me. And when he first went to get his job, get his first job in coaching, or to get his chance in coaching, he had to go and work for the club for nothing, free of charge. Well, what's that about? What's that about? You're going to give out top drawer information, and you're going to lead young men how they need to be led, and you're going to show them these are the ropes with regards to being a pro. Right, and this is maybe you want to think about how conducting yourself like this, and this is what you can expect, and this is what's going to happen to you. I mean, I do like everything game related. But when they got out there, they got into their second year, it was almost like second year became second nature. The game became easy to them. You understand what I mean? Mm. But it's like I used to tell them, you don't want to be like me when I had my chance at Chelsea. I didn't realise it was my chance until it slipped by, and I thought I'd made it. When I made it, I thought I'd made it. Well, you ain't made it. That's when the work just starts. That's when it just begins. And I didn't realise any of that until I thought about it as an adult, as a grown man, as a mature man, and also until I went back to martial arts, which was the other career path I was considering taking when I was a kid. And I went back to it and got a scholarship. But the kids, going back to the kids, they were fantastic because they're like what's a blank canvas. What I mean by that is they're a ready-made sponge, or a ready-made like vacuum, ready to suck up all the information you're giving them, especially if they're dedicated in terms of wanting to make professional status. So they're hanging on every word. And I used to say to them, don't become coach dependent. Don't depend on me. What you got to do is, I told them something I had to work out for myself. Sometimes what you do, you've got to go away and you've got to think about the game yourself. You should be thinking about it all the time, every day. Sometimes you're going to need a break from it. Sometimes you're going to need to go away and think about it yourself and break things down for yourself and throw out what doesn't work for you. You understand? All I can do is keep feeding you ingredients, and then you decipher, yep, that's a bit of me. I don't need that. Throw it out and streamline you. So it was a great experience. I mean, we had some fantastic experiences and fantastic results. We turned absolute batterings into positive results. Because I looked at the second year apprentices as they were second year YTS. They'd wasted a year under the previous incumbent, and basically I looked at it and I said, well, what I'll do, I'll give them a chance up until just before Christmas to resurrect their career, resurrect their chances of making professional. But I warned them, I said, it's going to be coming at you thick and fast now, because it's not going to be like the previous thing. And dare I say it, God forbid, they'd probably wasted a year of their life. They probably wasted a year of their career. And then I said, I'm just going to be feeding you stuff And what you've got to show the ability to be able to absorb it and then turn it into something, you know, pragmatic on the football field. You understand? You've got to be able to take it and use it. And then if you make pro, and then the best prospect asked to be paid up. Danny Manyenya. So I said, what are you doing swanning around with a diamond earring? So I said, because if I'm a centre back, I said, like, I might catch that. I said, or I might pull it on purpose. If you're playing abroad, they're pulled out on purpose. I said, or I might flick an elbow and catch you. I said, you rip your ear off. Apart from the fact I said it ain't a good image. I said, you know, who do you think you are at the minute? Anyway, it wasn't because of me. His art weren't in it. He just said, I want to go back to my family. And he said, and they're going back to whatever African country they came from. It's remiss of me not to remember. But he asked Peter Eustace to be paid up, and Peter paid him up the remainder of his contract, and he left. The rest, basically, all my first year intake, they took the places of, and then we started to reverse results. Good hiding from Tottenham, we turned that round. I think we drew 2-2 with them. The organisation side of it, they started to really grasp. I think the threshold, the break point was we was at home to Arsenal, and we were drawing 0-0, and one of our players got sent off. So I set the team up against Pat Rice to concede the ball, shut the lines off, and let their centre backs have it and retreat to on the edge of our attacking third. So they couldn't find a way through, and then when they did, we automatically locked on into our defensive strategy, and we saw the game out 0-0 with 10 men. Then we went to London Colney and beat them 2-0. Then we played Chelsea in the FA Youth Cup and we knocked them out. We drew 0-0 at home. So there was a replay at Stamford Bridge, and everyone thinks, that's that done and dusted. We went there and we done them 2-0. Knocked them out the FA Youth Cup. Graham Ricks, lovely little, who had 4 jobs after his problems and going to prison. Right? So see what I said earlier about what I said pales into insignificance.
Yeah.
6 months.
When you worded like that.
6 months for underage sex, comes out he has 4 fantastic jobs in the game, right? And I couldn't get a looking back in the programme, although I had 4 non-league jobs, right?
And what was your crime to rank?
Yeah, I said a few fucks and cunts and whatever, you know what I mean? And I've seen fucking Frank Clarke run up the tunnel and chin. Who's the kid? He was a Brentford centre back, and then he gets his foot on the coaching ladder, and he ended up at Crystal Palace, and he'd done a little stint as caretaker manager there. Is it Keith Millen? Anyway, he went over the top on Stevie Castle in the centre circle. I was out with a ruptured Achilles, otherwise I'd have ironed him out myself. But I went down there to try and keep Frank away from it, and he just ran up the tee. Went as he was coming in at half time. He went, "You dirty bastard!" And he went bang and fucking pinged him. Yeah. So you see all that stuff. You see. I saw Eustace hit a player. You know, this is just at Leyton Orient. You know what I mean? You hear the other stories of fucking teacups go flying and pots of tea go flying, ruining. You know, if it had done it to me, I'd have gone like you pay for the cleaning bill. I'd have gone. You know, I should have said to a couple of managers. I got up once. I had a row with Frank once in his office, and I said, fuck it." And I got up and walked out, and he went, "Where are you fucking going?" So I told him, "What?" He said, "You don't get up and turn your back on me and walk out on me." He said, I can walk out on you, but you don't walk out on me. He said, "Sit down." That's when I should have just tipped the desk upside down and fucking ironed him out and said, "Fuck football." You know what I mean? Because I'd had enough of being exploited. I'd had enough of 8 years on the same money. I had a run-in with Eustace as youth coach. And I just said, like, "Listen, what I need you to sack me so I can sign on because I've got 3 small children." He said, "I'm not sacking you." He said, "You can resign if you want, but I'm not sacking you." Like that. So we had a row escalated, and I basically, I fucking had enough of you. I picked a chair up and threw it at him. I tried to throw it was heavier than I thought, I'll be truthful with you. And it hit him on the shoulder instead of in the head. Anyway, he rung me. It was quite manly of him. He rung me at home. He said, "Have you calmed down?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, I suppose I better apologise. And I said, "But you fucking pushed me too far." I said, "You got me working 7 days a week for 280 quid before tax." I said, "And you're in Loughton with Frank, Bernie and Chris Turner getting pissed." I said, "And I'm in on the Sunday." I said, "The only time I get to see me 3 kids," I said, "and me missus," I said, "and you want me in fucking running the injuries." Oh, that was it. It was a row over Trevor Putney. He was laying on the treatment bench drinking tea. I said, "Come on, Trev, 15-minute warning." I said, "We're starting at 10:30 sharp so we can all get away and have our Sunday lunch." Yeah, I'll be out in a minute. He turned away. He swanned out at 11:15. So I go in Monday. Eustace said, how did it go yesterday? I said, yeah, good. I said, everyone worked well, everyone worked hard. There was only one small problem with da-da-da. This is what Putney did. He went, oh, really? So he calls him in the office, and then Putney says, starts singing OJ's Backstabbers in the fucking dressing room. So I walked up to him. I'd have been doing him a favour, actually, if I'd have broke his nose. But I said, you've got a fucking problem with me? And so I just said to him, you fucking smug, sarcastic cunt. And Von Ryan got in between us. Anyway, we went to see Eustace. Eustace backed him. I think he give it the old, the biblical one. You're 50% to blame and you're 50% to blame. The old King Solomon touch. Yeah. So I said, so I've got to come in on Sunday and work the injuries and run the players and do some ball work and for those who ain't played. I said, and it's a 10:30 start. I said, and he's still sitting on the bench drinking tea at 11:15 and it's my fault. Yeah, he said, you should have handled it differently. I said, well, I handled it appropriately. I said, I said to him, 10:30 start. I said, when you've got another 12 players out there who can be bothered to be on time, when I say 10:30 start, it's a 10:30 start. So we had a 10:30 start. So I said, so don't tell me you'd have handled it any differently, because out of professional courtesy, right, to the players that have turned up on time and kitted up on time, and they're starting to stretch off on time, I'm going to start the session. I'm going to subscribe to them. I'm not going to subscribe to someone drinking tea on the laying on the treatment bench. You know what I mean? Anyway, that was that episode.